welcome everyone. It's Wellness Wednesday when we interview various experts in wellness fields. And today we have a wonderful guest, Edie Sangiorgio. And I want to give a little bit of an introduction with Edie. So she comes from a lot of Western medicine healers, and I would love for you to kind of share that background here in a minute. But about 20 years ago, she was really introduced to energy medicine, energy psychology, and really hasn't looked back. And so she is certified in 2 different modalities, an emotion code practitioner, which is also EFT. So if you've ever seen that acronym or have heard of that, that's exactly what that is. The emotional freedom techniques. So it's constantly known as tapping.
Right.
So her philosophy is that it is our stored energy that is holding us all back from reaching our potential and achieving our goals. And one of her taglines that's also on her email is life is an inside out job. And Edie, we met several months ago at a Polka Dot Powerhouse meeting.
Right.
And then connected afterwards. And I honestly felt like when we chatted for the first time, it was like, hey, we speak the same language because,
cool. Yeah,
you know, we are both in that wellness mindset of we got to work on ourselves first. And there's different ways to do that. And so she's going to introduce us to what tapping is, why it's important, and how we can utilize it very easily. So welcome, Edie.
Thank you. I am just really thrilled to be here. This is just fun. Thank you for inviting me.
So tell us, I guess, a little bit about yourself, your background, maybe your family.
That's a good place to start, actually.
Yeah.
My dad was an orthopedic surgeon, very schooled in Western medicine, and being an orthopedic surgeon, he looked at x-rays, black and white. If it was not in black and white, then the pain did not exist. He was very dear-hearted man, but very in his head, very left brain logical. My mother, on the other hand, had a lot of emotional issues. Her dad died when she was 15 of an unexpected heart attack. Her brother was killed when she was 29 in a plane crash, and she never really got over the grief. And when she married my dad in 1951, started having babies, never really addressed it. And then it kind of caught up with her, and I'm sure she tried to get my dad to understand her emotional state. He didn't get it. And so her body started to manifest lots of physical ailments, especially pain. She had both knees replaced, her back fused. She had irritable bowel syndrome, migraine headaches, panic attacks, anxiety. I mean, you name it. My mom had all kinds of issues. And it was her body crying out, I'm hurting, emotionally I'm hurting. And my dad didn't get it, but he got it if it was on an x-ray. Mm-hmm. So she had all the pills and the surgeries and the injections, and nothing really helped my mother. So when I got introduced to the concept that 90% of everything that ails us is root cause is emotion, I just went, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And I just kind of went on a journey to find out more and study energy medicine, energy psychology, the fact that everything is energy, emotions are energy, thoughts are energy, our bodies are energy, even though we think of them as physical. And tapping is just a really cool way that the average person can apply this knowledge in their own lives anytime that they want to in private.
You don't need a certification. You don't need a training.
Nope. You literally have healing at your fingertips. And Joe Dispenza, he says the best way to heal the world is to heal yourself. Mm-hmm. And this is a great way to start. Now, not that it's going to be the cure-all, but it goes in conjunction with, if you needed to have surgery, you can tap to kind of calm your system down. If you want to go to a psychiatrist, or if you need medication, by all means, do those things that you need to do. But this is just a great technique to add to your toolbox. And you might be surprised at how effective it can be.
Completely.
And it's free. It's free. Right. You carry it with you.
Completely. There's a ton of research. I'm a big research type person. Right. There's a ton of research with the connection of that emotional health and your emotional state to your physical state. And I love that more and more people are researching, more and more people are aware that exists.
Right.
Because it's correlation of depression with heart and any issues with your heart. It's anxiety with stomach. and gut issues. And those are huge. And a lot of people are like, I have upset stomach, but I don't have any allergies. Well, let's look at the emotional side. Why?
Right.
So I see that a lot also with essential oils with people, because they're just thinking, okay, symptom, let's figure out what's going on. But a lot of times it's much deeper, and a doctor doesn't start there. Doctor's like, well, let's take every x-ray and let's do every blood test and every, and sometimes you don't need all that. It's an emotional foundation. So,
and the thing I saw, so that I want to connect with that, is that I've heard that all pain, physical pain, unless it's an injury, is emotionally connected. Yeah. Because you don't just wake up one morning and all of a sudden your joints start hurting. Why? Unless you physically abused them and hurt them or something. And it makes sense because my mother had both knees replaced, one of them twice. Wow. She was never on her knees. She had no job on her knees. She wasn't on her feet. She wasn't a runner. She was a doctor's wife, and she sat a lot. I mean, I'll just be honest. She did a lot of sitting. Yeah. Why would her knees get out on her? Why would they just all of a sudden deteriorate for just no reason?
Yeah.
From the outside world. So that really hit home to me, when emotions can connect, and our bodies and the pain are trying to communicate to us.
Right.
So as far as tapping to me is a way of communicating back with your body. It's a way to initiate that conversation. If our bodies are already talking with the neurotransmitters and the chemicals and the hormones and the electrical signals, and we see something that triggers us, and all of a sudden our stomach starts to get in a butterfly, or we get tension in our back or whatever, we're already communicating with the outside world. Right. And with our own thoughts. Well, tapping is a way to actually initiate that conversation and guide that conversation in your body where you want it to go, not just let your body do it willy-nilly.
Right.
And that's what I like about tapping, is that it connects the physical with the acupressure points, with the talk therapy and your mind and your words, with your emotional state. So it's that mind, body, spirit, holistic approach.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the cure-all to everything, but at the same time, it's amazing what it can do. And when you go into research, what people are healing themselves with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So let's break it down. What exactly is tapping? For people that have never heard EFT, never heard the word tapping, that might be watching, what does it mean? What are you doing?
Okay. Tapping was originated by Roger Callahan back in the 1980s. And he realized with a patient that had a total fear of water, that when she tapped right here, all of a sudden her phobia went away. And this is the stomach meridian. So then he started to realize that other meridian points, if you tapped on them, that he was getting responses from his patients. Gary Craig came along in the 1990s and said, that's way too complicated to know all the different points and what they all mean. And so he came up with a round of tapping, where you tap on these acupressure points right here, and that's just called a round of tapping. And so what you're doing is you're sending a signal through your nervous system, through your meridian system, to your amygdala, which is part of the limbic brain that's connected to our emotions. And you're kind of short-circuiting. And when you notice how you're feeling, it's really all about your feelings, not about the words. The words don't really matter. It's that, what are you feeling? And you're moving that energy up and out, kind of. And so when you're tapping, you're sending the signal, you're reprogramming your brain as well. And you're actually communicating with your body in a productive way and with intention. It's simple to use, and you just memorize the acupressure points. And you have what's called a setup statement, where you tap on the acupressure point right here with a karate chop point, and you do a setup statement right here, that fleshy part. And your setup statement always is, even though I'm feeling really anxious about getting up and speaking in front of people. And then you end it by saying, I completely love and accept and forgive myself. So if anybody's read The Power of Now or Presence or any of those books about really getting grounded in where you are, acceptance, you cannot, if I'm holding on to a pen and you say, Edie, you're holding on to a pen. I go, no, I'm not. I don't hold on to pens. There's no way for me to let go of it. But once I go, oh my gosh, look at that. You're right. I am holding on to a pen. Then I can drop it. So by anchoring that even though statement with an acceptance, I love and accept and forgive myself, then you're basically saying, yep, this is what I'm dealing with, and it's okay. And then after you do the setup statement, usually 3 different kind of ways. You don't have to do 3, but typically people do 3. And then you just start tapping on the acupressure points and verbally talking about what you're feeling. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be standing up in front of a group of people and I have to talk. And in the past, it's always made my stomach really nervous and I could feel my knees shaking right now. And you just start to talk about how you're feeling. And you'll be amazed at how it'll you'll start to, there's this part of you that goes, it's not that big a deal. It's going to be okay. Other people get up and talk all the time. Your subject matter or whatever, but you have to kind of counteract that initial emotional response and interrupt it.
I feel like a big part of that too is like hearing yourself say it too,
Yes.
right? Like, so that it's not just the thoughts, but like when you verbalize it, a lot of times you're hearing it in a different way than if it's just in your mind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So as you're talking, all of a sudden you kind of catch yourself on your own crap and go, this is kind of ridiculous. Or if you really are nervous, you still may end up being somewhat nervous when you're talking, getting up in front, but there's part of you that you have to program yourself. It's not going to be a one and done.
Right.
You may have to do this many times in front of a group because you've had that belief instilled in your subconscious for years, if not decades. And it's not just a simple, oh, this is just a bunch of BS that I can do this and one and done. So,
and I use a really good analogy on that. So like it doesn't, it's not one time you ate something unhealthy and you have high blood pressure, right? It's a lifelong, kids typically are not born with high blood pressure or any sort of blood pressure issues. That's very, very rare. It's lifestyle, it's choices, it's what you've exposed yourself. And it's the same thing emotionally. It's not necessarily one thing, right? Or one way to fix it. No. There might be a trigger that, brings you back there, but it does take a routine. It takes a new, just established routine, truly. Yeah.
Well, they talk about that we're like the onion with the layers. And so you have to kind of work through the layers. And you could have had many instances in your life where that same emotion was connected, and you have to kind of work through that and reprogram yourself. And then what you said, it's a lifestyle, and tapping is something that once people start learning how to do it and incorporate it in their daily life, that over the course of weeks, months, years, you can make lots of changes in your body. Yeah. And we are not victims of our genes. For instance, they're finding out that gene, it's the nurture versus nature, and tapping literally affects our gene, what they call being turn on or turn off, and also neuroplasticity, where our brains, we can, reprogram and learn things. Yeah. We're not just given a deck of cards and say, but too bad, so sad. This is what you're going to deal with.
Right. No, it can be changed. Yeah. And there's many holistic modalities that can impact that change in your DNA. And I think that's amazing that, you can utilize all of them and really go against the grain of what genetic predispositions you may already have. So it's a powerful thing when you realize you're not a product of, how you were born, which is awesome. Right.
Well, it's like cross training where, you have to use multiple things at different times.
Right. Totally. So. Yeah. So what can tapping be used for?
Oh, there's a site called Try It On Everything. It can be used for anything that's a physical ailment, a disease that you need to tell your body that it needs to, change the chemical makeup, because with intention, we are created in God's image. We do have ability to kind of have the intention to manifest things in our body if we, once you believe it, and then also just continue to do it. But it can be used on pain. It can be used on emotional issues. They use it on post-traumatic stress for the wounded, veterans that are coming over, back from overseas. Right. School anxiety, test anxiety. I mean, you kind of name it, and people have tapped on it. And if you go on YouTube and put tapping on and literally put anything, you will find someone that has done a YouTube video on it. So there's a plethora of information out there.
my first exposure to tapping was a viral video, actually, that was like a classroom of kids that a teacher was
Right,
leading them in tapping exercises. It's
right,
been many years since that happened, but I was like, what is that? And I looked into it and was like, that's a powerful tool.
right.
And it's something that I've exposed a lot of my leaders with that have gone through, a mentoring training that I do with them, to utilizing tapping, with their
Right.
affirmations and their I am statements, etc. So
Absolutely.
it's
Yep.
totally a powerful tool. So I want to go ahead and share that image that you showed us of the various EFT tapping points. So if you'll talk about this a little bit, and then we'll dive into your 21-day challenge that you have coming up.
All right.
Oh,
These are the basic tapping points. You see the karate chop point. This is where you do your even though statement. And you do that just, again, 1 to 2, 3 times. You can just sit there and stay on the even though statement as long as you want. And then you go to the eyebrow point, then the side of the eye, and then under the eye, the nose, right under the nose, the chin. It's in the cliff. He has Claudia, the artist, he did the chin part. It's really more the cliff of the chin right there.
okay.
Under the arm where your bra strap is, or that little fleshy part, and then the top of the head. And after you do your even though statement, again, you just start talking about your issue. Excuse me. And usually, typically, people will do 2 or 3 rounds, and then you'll notice, then you'll stop, take a breath, and then check in with yourself. And then a lot of times they'll ask you to do if you're working with a practitioner, to use the pain scale or whatever the scale is, on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how angry are you right now at what just happened in your life, that you're
Yeah.
feeling all this intensity? Then you rate it and say, okay, I'm at a 7 or 8. And then after you tap, stop for a minute and go, okay, now on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you right now? And you'll notice that number come down. And then there's other things that you'll deal with. For instance, if you're dealing with grief and someone's passed away, you're going to have multiple emotions. You might be really sad, or you could be angry. It's that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the stages of grief.
Right.
There's layers of emotions. So you might tap and get feeling better about your sadness, but then all of a sudden you go, if someone say, what do you feel now? I go, I'm just angry. I'm angry at the situation. I'm angry at them for not taking care of themselves. I'm angry at the doctors, whatever. So you might have anger. And then after the anger, you tap on that. Then the next one, what are you feeling? Then all of a sudden you go, I'm just feeling, sad or confused. And so it's a lot about self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing about tapping, is it really gets you into what's going on with you. What are you feeling?
Yeah,
Because
totally.
we understand life intellectually, but we experience it emotionally.
Right.
And so we really all have to kind of get in touch with our emotions and call ourselves out, because if we're starting to wig out on something, that's not good for our bodies, to
Right.
allow our emotions to just completely take over our experience.
Mm-hmm.
We need to intercept that and interject when we can, and calm ourselves down. And right now, everybody's so triggered. I mean, everybody's ultra sensitive. You can't really go out there and say anything without getting somebody riled up at you. And that's why I just think this is a perfect time for so many people to learn it and to kind of chill out,
Yeah. And have a lifelong skill that's in their toolkit. I think
Right.
that's a powerful thing. So
Right.
if anyone that's watching wants access to this image, you can email Edie
Right.
with the information here above. Or if you comment and you're in the Facebook group, I'm happy to send that along to you as well. I think it's a very, very powerful tool as well to use. So to wrap up, Edie, will you share with us, what is this 21-day challenge that you have coming up?
Okay. Well, I'm still in the process of working on it. But I got introduced to the concept of a challenge by someone that was doing a physical challenge of a diet and drinking lots of water and exercising and reading a book, and I forgot something else. And they had to do it for 75 days straight. So I thought, ooh, a challenge. I want to challenge people to be more aware of their emotional state and do those things that help their body and their mind and their holistically. So the challenge is, we're going to go through 21 different emotions. You're going to need to drink water every day, because water, I found out tons of interesting things just yesterday about water. It's amazing. And then tap. And I've been working on a book for a number of years. I'm really going to try to get this finished with the challenge. It's called Tapping on the Toilet, How to Get the Crap Out in More Ways Than One. And again, it comes back to that concept of we need to be doing this every day. And if we go in our bodies into the bathroom every day to eliminate toxic waste or what we don't need, maybe we need to be doing that with our emotional crap that we're taking on. And what's the best way to do that is to, and the better way is to in the bathroom when you're in your own privacy, and to be reminded, oh, my body's releasing, maybe I need to emotionally release. And so the challenge is going to be to drink water every day, tap every day, and then I'm going to give a list of 20 different other activities that you can pick and choose from. One of them is going to be essential oils, for instance. They're all going to be very, very simple things to incorporate, but then do this for 21 days on 21 different emotions and see if you can't kind of figure out what your bugaboo is, and it's just going to scratch the surface, but it's to create a habit. That's the goal. And the reason it's 21 days is that supposedly it takes 21 days to create a habit.
Right. So, but I bet a lot of people will start it and keep it going, because they think
that's my hope. That's my goal and my hope is that they realize, that they are feeling better when they do it, and that by doing those little things throughout the day that are easy, like they have the essential oils that for emotional issues. So you have that, and then you do a little bit of 5 or 10 minute meditations, or you do a little bit of journaling, little tiny things here and there that you can do throughout the day to remind you, what am I feeling? Because how many people they have a thought, it gets them upset, they see something on the news, their spouse says something, their kids say something, and then 3 hours later, they're still all in a tizzy. They completely just allowed their emotions to take over. And this is to alert them, you don't have to live that way. Don't be a victim of your own thoughts.
Do something about it.
Be aware, stop it, in its tracks, change the channel, change the direction of your thoughts, release the emotions, and just real quick, for a real funny video to watch, have people go on YouTube and watch the I Love Lucy clip of the chocolate factory. And this is indicative of what's going on right now. It's like at first the chocolate's coming along and it's easy, and she's just doing, this is fine. And it starts coming faster and faster. What does she do? She's stuffing, That's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing, because everything is coming at us so much faster than it used to. We were not made emotionally and psychologically and everything to process the information that's coming at us in our 5 senses.
I love that analogy.
It makes it funny, and it makes it like, oh yeah, I mean, because you get clicked and you get, your phone dings you, and then all of a sudden you're 24/7 kind of.
Right.
And if you cannot process something, your subconscious goes, I don't have time for that now. Stuff. We'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it later. And then pretty soon we're emotionally constipated.
Well, it's just built up in your body. It's all stuffed in your clothes, and
Absolutely. And I think that's why people are on opioids and drinking more and overweight, because their bodies are taking in way too much emotional energy that they're not processing.
Completely.
So the tapping's just one tool. There's many of them out there, and it's not the be all, the end all, but it's certainly something that you need to learn how to do and incorporate when you can. So that's my challenge, and I'm just working on it. So I've got so far about 15 guinea pigs are volunteers. So if anybody's interested in joining my volunteer list, then they can do that.
Awesome. So they'll reach out to you, and then when that is launched, are you going to have that on your website?
I'm going to be just communicating with the volunteers. I'm hoping to start it next week sometime, in early October. And then once I get it actually ready to launch for a price, then it'll be on the website.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you again, Edie, for being here today. And if anyone has questions or wants to reach out to her, all of her contact information and website is available on this post. So we will see you next week for our next Wellness Wednesday. Okay. Thanks, Edie.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Melissa. Bye.
Bye.